We wanted to let you know about a free pattern that we have on the Urban Elements website. Actually, it's two free patterns. We have a free face mask pattern for making surgical type face mask for either yourself at home or for different first responders. I know a lot of first responders and hospitals are asking for different types of masks to help supplement their shortage of N95. If you look on the website under free mask, you'll come up to this page, and there's actually two things on here. One of them is a self-print, which will give you a 3-page paper pattern with instructions on how to make this specific type of mask. And down below it is an SVG file. The SVG file are for people who have like a Cameo Silhouette or a Brother scan and cut machine. The SVG file is the information that the scan and cut machine would use to actually cut out the fabric so that you could produce the mask in a quicker fashion. The scan and cut would do all of the cutting for you, and then you would just have to piece the pieces together. And I'm going to reposition the camera so you can see my step-by-step process. There's a couple things that I'd like to say first. One of them is that if you're going to be making masks to donate to some type of organization, we think it's really important for you to contact the organization and find out what kind of mask that they are looking for. I know that we are facing some kinds of shortages for elastic, so some requests may not be easily met and alterations may have to be made, but we feel it's important, if you're going to take the time to make the masks, that the people that are going to be receiving them are going to be able to use them the way that they require. Another important thing is, if you're pulling fabric out of your stash, to remember that these masks are going to be going into medical facilities. We need to worry about them being hypoallergenic as possible and impeccably clean. So if you've had fabric in your stash for a period of time and you know that you washed it in the beginning, it's important to rewash the fabric. The fabric should be free of any pet dander, any dust, any odors, mold, mildew, anything overly scented laundry detergent. Really should use unscented, so that when these masks go into use, because they are going to be used on people's faces, that they're not going to be smelling odd or have dust on them, and we're not causing more harm than we are good. So take the time to go ahead and rewash the fabric, and then go ahead and start into the production. One of the first things we did was print off the pattern. So the pattern's 3 pages. It gives you step-by-step instructions on the assembly of this particular type of mask. And it has 2 templates on here. The templates are a full-size template and a half-size template. And this was the template that I made. If you don't want to use the template and you have a cutting machine, you could use the SVG file and have your Cameo Silhouette or your Brother scan and cut to cut the pieces out for you. What we were requested when we talked to healthcare professionals was something that had a little bit of stability to it. So we've recommended ironing on a piece of non-woven fusible interfacing onto the back side of the fabric, which we've done here on this piece. And also, you can see I've used nesting pattern to mark my pieces on here. I was able to get 8 template pieces per strip of 44-inch fabric, and that's enough to make 2 masks. The instructions talked about a 15-inch square piece of fabric. However you do it, this is just how I did it. I used the template and I got 8 per strip. After you cut those pieces out, one of the first things I did after I made the first one, I wanted to go ahead and pre-fold this piece of fabric over, so later on it was a little bit easier to do. So I'm a big fan of the glue stick. I just used the glue stick and turned under my seam allowance and ironed that into place. And that just made, for me, a little bit of sense later on when I got to the inside out part. After you get your pieces ready with the seam ironed under, I put two pieces face to face and I pin those in place. What you'll do then is take this to the sewing machine, and with your 1/4 inch foot you're just going to sew this seam line, taking out your pins as you go. This is 1/2 or either the inside or the outside of a mask. After you get this part sewn, what you want to do is cut notches in the curve, so when it gets turned inside out you get a nice curve in there. This is what the notching looks like. And here you can see I have two pieces of the mask ready to go together. One of them I have as I sewn it, the other one I turned inside out, so that when I put these together I can open them up and get them ready to sew. I'm only going to sew the top and the bottom. Here you can see where I've pinned on both the top and bottom, and I've actually already sewn on here the 1/4 inch seam allowance on both sides. I still have an opening on the two ends. This is what it looks like after I turn this inside out. And we have been requested to put a piece of wire up on the top so that this can be molded onto somebody's nose. And we used 18 gauge wire. I actually found some copper wire, which is kind of nice because copper is like antimicrobial. But I tried pinning it in place, the copper wire in here, but I found that these little clips hold the wire a little bit better. And I also put my straps into the two edges. You can see the edges are already turned under because we ironed that earlier. And when I get done putting the other two straps on, I can just go ahead and top stitch, being careful to catch that copper wire in the seam allowance at the top. I did not have any elastic, couldn't find any elastic, so what I did was I just cut strips of fabric. My particular strips of fabric were 1.5 inches, and I just tri-folded these and did a top stitch. And again, I'm a kind of a fan of the glue stick, so I just ran the glue stick on there when I was doing my ironing. For me, it just made it a little bit easier. I'm just going to show you the edge piece here. I did that on the whole length of fabric, and then I took this over to the machine and I just top stitched this one edge, which is what you have here. And then I cut these in 18-inch pieces to use as my straps. So you tuck those into the two edges. The 18 gauge wire can be cut with a regular pair of household scissors. I would not use fabric scissors, but the regular scissors don't have any problem cutting that 18 gauge wire, so that works pretty good. And what you're finished with is one mask. It is the same fabric on both sides. It has the straps that can be folded around the back of the head. If you happen to have elastic, you could use the elastic. I know that a lot of the medical professionals prefer the elastic rather. I just don't have any, and I couldn't find any. And then you can get those, use them at home or get them out to medical professionals. These are not going to replace the N95 masks that are so greatly needed by our medical professionals, but they will help extend the life of those N95 masks by keeping them clean, because these can be washed. The mask generally cannot. So we want to thank you for watching, and thank you for your participation, and we want to wish you all the best of luck.